You know, I think if these people at least started the Harry Potter series, then this movie would not even happen. Like, the horrors that they experience just would be non-existent. Lesson learned, do not drink unicorn blood. Death of a Unicorn is the latest A24 weird, surreal horror comedy movie written and directed by Alex Scharfman, and has actually got a really strong cast to boot. Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Richard E. Grant, Will Poulter. This movie follows a widowing father, played by Paul Rudd, who goes on a weekend getaway with his daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, and while they're on the road, they accidentally hit and kill a unicorn with their car. And then his boss, played by Richard E. Grant, tries to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties with horrific results. And then more unicorns come into the fray, and it's a bloodbath. There's no other way to put it. And listen, I sat through this movie, and I've had a day to process what I just saw, and I still don't really know what I just saw. Part of me doesn't really know what the movie was trying to say, but I'd be lying if I said that this movie wasn't a blast. And I know that there are a lot of reviewers out there who are already drawing comparisons to Jurassic Park. Listen, I certainly see the parallels, and I certainly see where those people are coming from. And yeah, this story definitely has some derivative elements that you might remember from Jurassic Park. But I'm not going to sit here and compare a movie that's a few days old to one of the greatest movies of all time, because I feel like that's just unfair, and I feel like that's setting Death of a Unicorn up for disappointment. Because I will say this much, at least Jurassic Park's first half was engaging enough where I kind of was interested in these characters and what was going on. Death of a Unicorn's first half is very slow. I think aside from the actual inciting incident, them actually hitting the unicorn, nothing really remotely exciting is going on. But I'll tell you what, that second half really makes up for lost time, and it was so much fun to watch. And funny. This movie's script is darkly humorous. There's certain things that a lot of these characters say, especially the stupider ones in this movie, that just had me chuckling like, did they really just say that? And not everything really lands, but the more I think about this bit, the more it kind of... It's so dumb. But there's a whole sequence where these rich snobs are trying to overanalyze what this species actually is. And then there's a character with common sense in the room that says it's a unicorn. Like, no shit, Sherlock, of course it is. I will also say that the CGI on these unicorns is pretty good for the most part, but there were definitely moments where you see them running around that it definitely looks a bit choppy, and not really up to standard for what a 2025 movie that is heavily centered on CGI creatures has to offer. But, you know, I think what really carries Death of a Unicorn over the top is some really creative kills towards the end of the movie. Because like I said, this is an A24 movie that is definitely rated R, and there is blood everywhere once starts to hit the fan. I do think a lot of the dialogue we get is very curiously humorous, and the performances for the most part are very good. Paul Rudd's character, there's really not much to write home about, nothing really revolutionary about this geek. You've seen him in many movies before, but people might be surprised to hear that Paul Rudd isn't really the comedic highlight of this movie, and Paul Rudd is a very funny individual, but a lot of his dialogue feels very subdued, and it felt like this was a movie that was challenging him as a performer. And I think he was up for it. His daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, really is the heartbeat of this movie, and she is really becoming a massive star, isn't she? What, between being a scream queen in her own right, being in the Beetlejuice sequel last year, being Wednesday Addams on Netflix, like, she is really creating a massive career for herself. And I can't wait to see what she does next. Will Poulter. Let's talk about this guy, right? So... he plays the rich, snobby son of the boss, played by Richard E. Grant, who is also super demented in this. But Will Poulter steals the entire movie. There were a lot of lines that I feel like he definitely improvised, and I feel like it made the story even more ridiculous and even better than it would have been. This guy's just one of those characters that you love to hate. Like, you can definitely tell that he's arrogant and you don't like him, but you like to not like him, and you enjoy watching him, and you want to see him get his comeuppance, which he absolutely should. I'm not going to spoil whether or not he does. But man, yeah, this movie was It's interesting. Like, I want to go back and watch it again because I know this movie is trying to say something. On first viewing, though, I don't really know what I just watched. There's a whole part where if you grab the unicorn's horns, you're taken to like the quantum realm or something, and it's never really properly explained what these characters see. And I'm like, is that what makes the unicorn so majestic? I don't know. There were parts of the movie that the more I think about it, the more I don't really get. So I'm really torn because, yeah, like I said, this movie is very confusing in a lot of aspects. But I'm going to bump it up a few extra points because, A, it was a lot of fun to watch, especially as you get towards the halfway point and onward. And I'm curious to watch it again because I know that there's something deeper in here. And I know that I probably love something about this movie, but at this point, I don't know what that is. So for right now, I'm going to give Death of a Unicorn a B-. It feels like a movie that if it came out in 1993, it would have been gigantic. And yeah, people can't help but draw parallels to Jurassic Park, but I tried my best not to do it. The ending of this movie definitely feels like somewhat of a tribute to that movie, if you will, with its final shot. Well, let me know what you think of Death of a Unicorn. I feel like this movie could be super divisive. I also feel like this movie has massive potential 5 years down the road to be a cult favorite. But I love hearing your guys' thoughts. I love getting in front of this camera and being able to talk movies with you guys. It just makes me feel so alive, man. So hit that subscribe button if you've stumbled across this channel for the first time. We are beginning the slow but steady march to 3,000 subscribers over here. Hit that thumbs up as well if you enjoyed what you heard and saw today. Thank you all so very much for your continued support of the channel and your patience with me as I navigate through real life. I'm gonna try and see as many movies as I can as we start the month of April. Still a lot of big releases that I've yet to talk about, and I can't wait to do so. Thank you so much again for tuning in, guys. Y'all are the best. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.